Okay, hello everyone. My name is Celeste Artale. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Innsbruck in Austria. And today I would like to talk about the galaxy dark matter halo connection, but from the point of view of hydrodynamical cosmological simulations. And let me share my screen now. In the meantime, I would like to thanks to the organizers for giving me this opportunity, of course. Okay. So this is the outline of my talk. First, I will talk about we will give you an introduction of the galaxy halo connection. I will give you some ideas about the state-of-the-art hydrodynamical cosmological simulations, and then I will talk about some of the main results in which I was collaborating with different people where we investigate the manifestation of secondary halo bias on the galaxy population, then about the galaxy assembly bias, but from the point of view of combining these concepts of halo assembly bias and occupancy variations. Finally, I would like to talk about the kinetic Zunayev-Seldovich effect as a proof of observational proof of the halo spin bias. And finally, I will give you a summary of my talk. So let's start with the introduction with the galaxy halo connection. So in a lambda CDN cosmological scenario, we know that the universe is composed of cold dark matter, baryons, and dark energy. And during the inflation period, fluctuations in the matter distribution were produced, and gravitational instability grew these fluctuations over time, producing what we call virialized objects that separates from the expansion of the universe. These virialized objects is what we call dark matter halos that contains with different properties, of course, mass, radius, and concentration. And in this skeleton with dark matter or dark matter halos, we have the galaxies that form, evolve, and merge. Of course, in this context, we expect that the internal properties and spatial distribution of galaxies are likely to be, of course, connected with the grow internal properties and spatial distribution of dark matter halos. And in particular, if we focus now in this slide on the dark matter halos, but in general, a way to quantify the spatial distribution is through the correlation function. And the bias quantifies also the difference between the correlation function of, for instance, here of the dark matter halos and the matter distribution at large scale. So what we know is that the dark matter halo clustering depends primarily on the halo mass, the dark matter halo mass. However, we know already that secondary halo properties at fixed halo mass also affect the spatial distribution of the dark matter halos, and to this effect we call the secondary halo bias. When we refer to the formation time as the secondary dependence, the secondary property of the dark matter halos, we refer to the halo assembly bias. So, and here you see this is the formation time of the halos as a function of the halo mass, and the B here is a way to quantify the differences in the, as I said before, of the differences in the spatial distribution of the dark matter halos. And what, for instance, but in different papers, different works found was that the halos that assemble earlier are more clustered than halos that form at later times at fixed halo mass. So as you can see in this plot here. So now coming back to the galaxy halo connection. So the galaxy halo connection is important for several reasons. First of all, it's important because it can help us to give us ideas about the physics behind galaxy formation, can provide a constraint to cosmological parameters, but also since what we do is observing baryons, observing galaxies, it can tell us about the properties and distribution of dark matter in the real universe. There are different ways to approach to model the galaxy halo connection. It goes from the empiric. This scheme shows you different ways to do that, from the empirical models to the physical models. And well, in particular, this talk I will focus in studying the galaxy halo connection, as I said before, but using hydrodynamical cosmological simulations. There are, I would say that why are the physical models, well, that are on the left in this scheme, well, because the hydrodynamical cosmological simulations can track dark matter together with baryons in a self-consistent way compared with the other models. The problem is that they are computationally expensive in comparison with n-body simulations and semi-analytic models. And also, since they are computationally expensive, the simulated boxes are still small compared with those, the mock galaxies, let's say, that are obtained from semi-analytic models and n-body simulations. However, nowadays we have the state-of-the-art of hydrodynamical cosmological simulations have obtained, they represent large boxes, or boxes that are enough to start investigating the large-scale structure features, but using hydrodynamical cosmological simulations. Here are some of them now, the most recent and most famous, I would say. And in this talk, I will refer several times to this one, to Illustris TNG, Illustris, and also to Eagle. In particular, as I said, Illustris TNG is a magnetohydrodynamical simulation that includes different, well, it's an updated version of Illustris and includes different subgrid models to account for different features of the baryonic physics behind the galaxy formation and evolution. In this talk, I will refer, I think, most of the time to TNG 300, which is the largest simulated box of the Illustris TNG and one of the largest simulated boxes, hydrodynamical cosmological simulations, up to date. And it's available online, so you can extract the data online on this website. So the first part of the results I would like to discuss with you today is about, as I said, the manifestation of the secondary halo bias in the galaxy population. This work was led by Antonio Montero Dorta, and what we did was to use the Illustris TNG 300 to investigate the features of the secondary halo bias in the galaxy clustering, according to also different galaxy properties. So in these plots here, what I show you is the different galaxy properties: the stellar mass, the color, the size, and the specific star formation rate as a function of the dark matter halo mass, and the color code represent the formation redshift, or the formation time, the age of the dark matter halos. And for instance, if you see it here at the fixed, and for the halos up to 10 to the 12.5, you see that the fixed halo mass, the older halos host the most massive central galaxies than the young halos, and again, at the fixed dark matter halo mass. Similar features are found for the colors, where you see here the red galaxies, the redder galaxies are in all halos compared with bluer galaxies that are in younger halos. And the slight trends are also in specific star formation rate and just in for the size we just find time correlation of the galaxy size with halo mass. So now, with this in mind, now we can investigate for fixed halo mass the clustering of the galaxies for these two subpopulations, let's say, the massive galaxies, low mass galaxies, and compare with the clustering of the dark matter halos when we at a fixed halo mass, but accounting for a second halo property. And this is what I show you here. This is based on the what we call the relative bias. So it's basically a ratio between the correlation functions when we split into these subpopulations based, for instance, in this case, in mass of the galaxies and the different galaxy properties. And what we find is that the clustering of central galaxies depend on the galaxy properties that are correlated with secondary halo properties that I show you in the previous slide. And it's very interesting how these features are similar to those when we split by, for instance, young and old halos that are the dashed black gray lines in these plots. Interestingly, also that we find that the galaxy size we find also a feature, a trend and a difference in the relative bias of these two subsamples split by galaxy size. But yeah, we don't have a clear explanation for this sign. Yeah. So besides this way of connecting the galaxy properties with the secondary properties of the dark matter halos, we also investigate in particular the halo assembly bias, the galaxy assembly bias, that so would be the connection with halo assembly bias, but in this way. So thinking that this the impact, the differences in the galaxy clustering are based on the halo assembly bias, but also occupancy variations that affect the galaxy clustering of the galaxy, well, the galaxy clustering. But well, okay, we not only investigate this feature with the halo assembly bias, but also with the environment. So it's more or less, the idea was to think like a way to investigate the features in the galaxy clustering, considering the secondary halo bias, but only for the formation, taking into account the formation time of the halos or the large scale environment, together with the occupancy variations that I refer to this to a fixed halo mass. The dark matter halos host a certain mean number of galaxies depending on this secondary property of the dark matter halos. This is a scheme of the environment, so how we select the subsets to account for this analysis based on the environment and the formation time of the dark matter halos. And I will show you briefly some of the results here. I decided just to focus on the Eagle simulation, but this work, I forgot to mention this. That was done with Sergio, Edith, and Peter, but well, I didn't have a picture with Peter, but with Nelson Padilla, so but it's the replacement of Peter in this picture. So we investigate the halo occupancy variations using the Eagle simulation, as I said, but also the Illustris simulation. But as I said, I'm only showing here the Eagle simulation. So each panel, the left is for the environment, the right for the formation time. This that I show you on these two top panels is what we call the halo occupation distribution, which is provides you a way. So it's basically provides you a way to account or to measure the mean number of galaxies that a dark matter halo at a fixed halo mass host. And so the black line is for the whole, all the dark matter sample, but the dash is the halo occupation of the satellites. And then the colors represent the subset that I mentioned before, this according to the environment and this according to the formation time. And you see that there are differences in the occupation, on the halo occupation. So this that we refer to is the occupancy variations. So according to there are variations of the halo occupation distribution when for instance, for the environment. So those halos at the fixed halo mass, those halos in high dense environments have a higher chance to have a central galaxy, in this case, that low dense dark matter halos. In this case, it's more interesting because for all dark matter halos at fixed halo mass, in this part, are more likely to host a central galaxy than young halos, while for massive halos, where you have more than one galaxy, so a central galaxy plus satellites, the mean number of galaxies is higher for young dark matter halos than all halos. And this is a consequence that all halos have a larger, have more time to for the satellites to merge to the central galaxy. So that's the difference. That's the reason of the difference of the halo occupation distribution for young and old dark matter halos. This is also a feature that we found, not for the environment, maybe for the central galaxies and the stellar mass of the galaxies in a fixed dark matter halo, but it's more clear maybe for as a function of formation time. This is also connected with what I showed you before. So now moving to the last part of the results I wanted to talk today. So I wanted to focus now in the halo spin bias. So using the spin of the dark matter halos as the secondary property of the halos to account for the differences in the halo clustering. And we were discussing a way to detect observationally the halo spin bias. And well, here you see this is the angular momentum of the gas as a function of the angular momentum of the dark matter. And you see that there is an interesting strong correlation between the gas, the angular momentum of the intracluster gas, so with the dark matter, so that despite the turbulent movement of gas, there is a good level of correlation. And so taking this into account, and well, this is the way we quantify the spin of the dark matter halos. This is the angular momentum, as I said, and the properties of the halo. We thought about testing the halo spin bias through the kinetic Sunyaev-Selvovich effect. But in general, the kinetic Sunyaev-Selvovich effect is produced by the inverse Compton scattering between the low energy photons from the cosmic microwave background and the free electrons in the intracluster gas. And this effect is basically observed as a distortion on the CMB spectrum in here. So in the case of the thermal Sonayev-Seldovich effect is due to the random motion of the electrons, or what we say again, the temperature of the electrons, while for the, when we refer to the kinetic, Sonayev-Seldovich effect is the bulk motion of the electrons. So it's based on the velocity of these free electrons within, in our case, in the, well, in general, in the galaxy clusters that is detected. So here I want to show you some of the maps that we obtained from the Illustris TNG 300. I forgot to mention, but this work was in collaboration with, again, with Antonio, that was leading this paper, together with Raúl Abramo and Beatriz Tucci. And in this shows some maps of the thermal distortions computed for some of the galaxy clusters in the Illustris TNG 300. There are some, of course, these were done by, so this is basically the rotational axis is perpendicular to the line of sight, and in this way we can obtain these dipoles that are computed in this way. And so as you can see, so this is not very, the dipoles are not computed, are not very clear in all the cases. So we have an heterogeneous sample of galaxy clusters in the Illustris TNG. And of course, I forgot to mention, but in the case of observational data, we have to take into account to extract the group velocity or the proper motion of the galaxy clusters to obtain these dipoles, as I show you here. So, so for in this work, we not only analyze the kinetic Sonayev-Seldovich effect, but also the thermal Sonayev-Seldovich effect. So the top panels here show you the thermal Sonayev-Seldovich effect as a function of the mass of the gas in the galaxy clusters or in the halos, yeah, and also as a function of the halo mass. The same for the kinetic Sonayev-Seldovich effect. These are the formulas, the way that we integrated, that we obtained the signups from the Illustris TNG 300 simulation. And one of the interesting features here is that, as you see, and as was also reported previously in several works, is that the thermal Sonayev-Seldovich effect is a signal, is a good tracer of the virial mass of the halos. Also for the kinetic, but for the thermal is much more, the trend is much stronger. So with this in mind, we also, well, here we also take into account another, we quantify the signal of or we connect with the spin of the dark matter halos through this quantity, that is the ratio between the kinetic Sonayev-Seldovich effect with the thermal, because of the dependencies of each of these on the angular momentum and the virial mass. And here we plot this L quantity as a function of the spin of the dark matter halos, where we found this trend. And also, interestingly, for the kinetic Sonayev-Seldovich effect, we plot also as a function of the angular momentum of the gas, finding also a very nice trend and correlation. So with all these things in mind, what we did was to compute the relative bias at a fixed dark matter halo mass, but splitting now not by the spin of the dark matter halos, but now also by the kinetic Sonayev-Seldovich signal effect, and also splitting by this L quantity that I defined before. So here you see, again, I repeat, these are for the for when we split the dark matter halos by according to the halo spin, according to the spin, sorry. And the orange and blue represent the subsets when we split by the kinetic and all, the kinetic Zurnaev-Seldovich effect and the L quantity that I defined. And we found a very nice similar relative bias trends with respect to when we split by the spin of the dark matter halos. As I said before, since the thermal Zurnaev-Seldovich effect is a good tracer of the dark matter halo, we use this as a proxy as of the halo mass. And we did the same exercise and finding also very nice dependencies or the trends of differences for the subsets when we split by the halos according to the kinetic Zurnaev-Seldovich signal and also the L quantity that I defined before. So we think that in the future this will be, so our results are quite interesting, and we think that in the future when future surveys we will be able to detect a large statistical number of galaxy clusters, we will be able to use these to infer and to trace the spin bias by using the thermal and kinetic Zurnaev-Seldovich observations. Finally, the origins of the spin bias will be discussed by Beatriz Tucci. This Friday, she has a poster presentation, so please take a look at this. It's a very, very nice work that she did recently. So finally, this is my summary. I think that, as I said before, a galaxy halo connection is important to comprehend the physics behind galaxy formation, to constrain cosmological parameters, to analyze the properties and distribution of dark matter. I think I show you today that the state-of-the-art hydrodynamical cosmological simulations are a great tool to investigate the galaxy halo connection and its properties at large scale. And then I show you that when we investigated the secondary halo bias and the impact of the manifestation in the galaxy population, we also investigate how the galaxy assembly bias can be considered as a combination of the halo assembly bias with together with occupancy variations. And finally, I discuss the kinetic Zurnaev-Seldovich effect as a nice observational proof for spin bias, for halo spin bias, that can be proved in the near future with future observations. And that's all. I stop sharing this. I hope this is done, and I hope we can discuss and about these results now this week. Thanks to all.